Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 7 of Python for DevOps series, and in this video we will deep dive into the concept called conditional handling in Python programming language. We will learn this concept with a lot of examples, but before that, let's quickly recap what we have learned in the previous classes. So we started with day 1, introduction to Python, installation and configuration. We also learned about the differences between shell scripting and Python scripting. When should a DevOps engineer use shell and when should a DevOps engineer use Python programming language? Then in day 2, we learned about data types, but we mostly focused on the strings and the numeric data types. We also learned about string handling, string manipulation, and inbuilt string functions. These are very important from the interview point of view, so please learn if you haven't. Then in day 3, we learned about keywords and variables. Pretty straightforward concept, but we learned about what are the good practices of defining variables and etc. Day 4, we learned about functions, modules, and packages. Here we learned how to write functions, what are the best practices, what is the difference between functions, modules, and packages. Day 5, we learned how to use environment variables and command line arguments. Again, the differences between them. When should you use env vars and when should you use command line arguments? Day 6, which was our most recent class, we learned about operators, different types of operators, and operators that are used by DevOps engineers. Today, we will learn about conditional handling, which is if, and else. So without wasting any time, let's start with the whiteboard and try to understand the concept of conditional handling. So all the 6 previous classes that I've mentioned is very important to go through because they cover the important basics of Python programming language. From today's class, we will head towards little advanced concepts. So please watch them. Now, one thing that I would like to tell you is conditional handling is a quite common concept across multiple programming languages. I mean, most of the programming languages implement this concept of conditional handling, and the keywords are also almost similar. Okay, so most of the programming languages use similar kind of keywords. But I know before explaining all of these things, the first thing that you want to understand is the what aspect and the why aspect of this conditional handling. What exactly it is and why should you use it. So let's start with that before understanding the keywords and the high level concepts. So the name conditional handling itself says that handle a particular condition. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's say that you are writing a program where user will give you an input called Sunday. Okay, if the user's input is Sunday, you are reading this as a command line argument. For example, if the user's input is Sunday, then you have to print today is Sunday. If the user's input is something else, then you should not print anything. Okay, don't print anything. You can compare this with the DevOps point of view as well. Let's say you are writing a Python script where you will ask input from the user what type of EC2 instance you want. If the user's input is t2.micro, okay, then print that, okay, we will create an instance for you. Okay, if the user's input is something like t2 medium or t2x large, okay, then you have to print, sorry, the instance cannot be created because you are using free tier, something like that, let's say. Okay, now how do you do this? Till now what we have learned is how to write the print statement or how to write a block of code. But we never learned how to write only when you handle a condition. Okay, or depending upon a condition. I said only if the instance type is t2.micro, or only if the user's input is t2.micro, only then execute the print statement. Okay, so for that purpose, you have something called as conditional handling, and you can implement that using the if keyword. So what I will do, I'll say if, then Python terminal or Python interpreter will understand, okay, this guy is going to do some conditional handling. And after if, I will mention instance underscore type, or just say type is equals to t2.micro. Then use a colon to indicate that you are going to write a block of code, give some spaces. Only if this particular condition is matched or met, then I will write a print statement saying that, okay, I will create the required instance for you. If user is providing t2.medium, then this particular block should not be executed, right? So let's see how to write this in the Python point of view. So I'll use a terminal. This is very, very simple. So what I'll do is, because I know user is passing input, I will say import sys, so that I can read the command line argument that user is passing, and I'll say type is equals to, I'm defining a variable called type. Okay, and inside that, what I'm saying, I'm defining the variable and I'm taking the value using the sys.argv of 1 from the command line argument. Now what I'll try to do, I'll say if type is equals to t2.micro. I've explained all of these concepts, like why are we using this particular block. I've explained in the command line arguments. Now why are we using is equals to instead of a single equals to? People who watched the previous class, they know if you are using single is equals to, it's an assignment operator. Like we used in line number 3, I am assigning this value to a variable, so I am using is equals to. But here I am comparing two variables, or I'm comparing a variable against a particular string. So I need to use is equals to is equals to. So if type is equals to t2.micro, then print, okay, we will create the instance for you. Now let's try to execute this program and see. Okay, so what I'll do is Python test.py t2.micro. Output is, okay, we will create the instance for you. Now let me change the instance type to t2.medium. It has to say nothing. Perfect. So what did we do? So we are printing only when the condition is met. This is called as conditional handling, because you are handling a particular condition. Got it? Till now, I hope the things are clear, because now I'll go little ahead. I'll teach you one more keyword called else. Now, what does else mean is, see here, I have executed the program and you saw that if I give input as t2.medium, there is no output to the user. But what I want to do is I want to extend this condition and say, okay, if type is t2.micro, print this. Else, that means if this condition is not met and if user provides anything else, then say print your input is not t2.micro, so we cannot create instance for you. Okay, so now let's try to again give the input as t2.medium and see. Perfect. So what we are doing, we have extended the if condition using another keyword called else. And what we are doing using else, we are saying if the above condition is not met, then print the particular block of code. Got it? So you can use else in this way, or you can also use to handle any particular errors. That is, if user is just giving something like t2.xyz, which is not a valid thing, right? So even in such cases, you can use the else block. Got it? So you understood why to use if and when to use else also. The name itself says, right? Else. That means if not this, just do this. Perfect. Now, what I am going to do you is, let's make it slightly more complicated. And let's say, what if you have to write a program where, depending upon the instance type, okay, you have to give more information to the user. So if user provides t2.micro as input, okay, then print saying that this will charge you $2 per day. If user gives input as t2.medium, then tell the user that, okay, I can create this instance for you, but this will charge $4 a day. If user gives t2.x large, then say print this will charge $8 for you. Now, how do you do this? If we are doing in the same way, okay, I can just change this and say print it will charge you $2 a day. Okay. Now in the if block, else block, if I just say this will charge you $4, then the problem is that if user's input is t2.medium, it's fine. You mentioned that it will charge $4. But if user's input is t2.x large, again it is saying it will charge you $4. That means this block of code is not working when you have more than two conditions. Okay, so here you just have two conditions. One is if type is t2.micro. Second is if type is not t2.micro. Okay. Now, what if you have 10 conditions? What if you have 5 conditions? So in such cases, you can write this code as else if. Okay. You can say else if type is equals to t2 dot medium, mention in the print statement, this will charge you $4 a day. Again, you can just copy this piece of code, convert this to t2.x large, okay, and just say this will charge $8 a day. Now, any number of conditions you can handle using else if. And finally, it's better to use the else statement, because in the else statement, you can mention if user is providing something like t2.xyz, which is a wrong instance type. Here you can say, please provide a valid instance type. Okay. Now let's try to implement this. First, let me give an invalid input. I'll say t2 dot, first let's say t2.xyz. Perfect. It's saying please give valid instance type. Now if I give t2.medium, okay, it will say $4 a day. If I give t2.x large, it will say $8 a day. Perfect. So this is how you do conditional handling, where we are not executing all the lines of code. We are only executing particular lines of code, and that we are handling using the conditions. Okay, there are 5 print statements here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there are 4 print statements here, but the output does not give 4 lines in the terminal, but it only gives 1 line, because only when the conditions are met, the print statements are executed. Inside this particular if block, you can write print statement, you can write any particular logic, you can write one print statement, you can write 100 print statements. There is no restriction at all. Only thing is you have to maintain equal number of spaces between the lines that you are writing inside this block. Got it? So it's a very, very simple concept. The name itself explains most of it, conditional handling. So you will master it as you keep practicing it. So what you will do is you will take this example of EC2 instance type and you will try to implement it. Okay, so please try to do that. And in tomorrow's class, or if you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section. Tomorrow's class, we will learn little advanced concept. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.